Peace. We got Kamron Bahani coming on from Rockland NY. About to chop it up. Stand by. What up, Philly? Lex, thanks for joining. About to have Kamron come on. Here he is. Let's see. Nuclear, thanks for joining. We should be going live any moment. Technical difficulties. We're going to try this again. Peace,
Yeah.
Kamron.
What's going on, bro?
How are you, man?
Good, man. Good to finally chop it up with you. What's going on?
Absolutely, man. Just another day at the office, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. I got you. Yeah. Yeah.
How's your day been?
Oh, it's been good. Busy. It's my brother's birthday today.
Oh, wow.
So, we still kick it with the family, everything like that. Everything
Nice.
is good, man. How about you?
Yeah, just work. Had to head into downtown Toronto.
Love
Come
Toronto.
back, type some final notes on the interview, and you know what I mean. Kids to bed, and we're here, man. Real
Yeah, man.
life.
I'm excited for sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. I've been looking forward to this, man. I like letting people know how we connected. You'd reached out to me after the Pro Dillinger interview I did. That was a crazy 2-hour interview.
That's my boy. Love
Yeah,
him,
man.
He's the man.
Yeah, man. You know what? Just as we get into that, how did you guys connect? If you don't mind me asking.
So me and Pro used to record at the same studio or like for a little bit because his name was Veg. I don't know what he's up
Right.
to nowadays, but Veg was a really good dude. It was in Haverstraw where Pro is from. So we always knew about each other because of that, but we never really knew each other, personally. So
Right.
around my city, it's not like I'm going to disrespect anybody and say nobody's got it like that because there's definitely talented people where I'm from. But I'm
Yeah.
somebody who is definitely influenced by golden era hip hop and New York hip hop.
Yeah.
So when I heard him, I was like, damn, who the fuck is this? And it was Pro. I'm like, damn, I know Pro Dillinger.
Yeah.
Then over time, I was just like, you know what? On Melodies for the Melancholy, I hit him up. I'm like, bro, let's do a feature on this project. And he
Yeah.
did it. Then after that, I was like, you know what? Like the style that I was leaning towards more, like I learned to be a little more authentic as opposed to following trends or anything like that. I
Gotcha.
just wanted to
Yeah.
be authentic myself. And my
Yeah.
style was kind of gearing towards that hip hop.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo, this dude's dope. His delivery is insane. His his
Yeah.
punkiness is like otherworldly. And you rap. I know you rap on the side. When you
Yeah.
get into like rapping and you understand the dynamics of a rapper, he's like top tier. So
His delivery, his energy is one of a
yo,
kind. Yeah, I
yeah,
talked to him about this for sure. He's got a voice. He's got a voice. That's for
yeah,
sure, right?
yeah,
In this hip hop shit.
yeah,
So
he's crazy talented.
yeah, man. So yeah, you reached out to me after that interview, and I've a couple of months ago I was consciously saying, yo, I gotta talk to different kinds of artists. Not that I talk to the same kind of artists, but I'm like, I gotta move out of sampled boom bap. I want to try new sounds. So you reached out to me, and you fit the bill. Plus, you said, I rap about mental health. I want to help people through music. I'm like, that's a topic that should be discussed more. Great. To be transparent, the only thing was you didn't do a lot of video historically. I think
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
safe statement, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, I'm an IG. I promote people leading up to the interview,
Right.
and I'm like, I don't know how I can promote them without video. Why don't we stop on that? Let me ask you, like, what's your outlook on video, if you don't mind me asking?
I
And
just
like,
think music videos are a big waste of money. The reason why I think they're a big waste of money is there's kids out there paying $2,500 for a single video with like women, cars, and it's just like, in my opinion, shit that kind of denigrates the culture. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
why are you trying to put forward this persona? Like, you got. I mean, there's videos that have massive budgets that are incredible. Like,
yeah,
Childish Gambino's video, "This Is America," is one of the best videos ever made.
right,
There's artists who have big production and it's cinematic, and there's no denigration of the culture itself. I think that music video shit is something that keeps rappers trapped. Instead of spending 3,000 or 4,000 on a, you know, a red video, 4K, whatever, like, bro, you can buy 2 or 3 features with that, and you can
true.
reach out to different fan bases. And like,
Hmm.
for video, for me, it's just kind of like my voice should be enough of an identity, and the story behind the voice is enough of an identity for me, at least. You know, like, I also don't want that fame type shit. Like, me and Pro are gonna shoot videos, but
Yeah.
I just love this shit, and that's what it really boils down to.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at end of the day, do what you like. Life is a choose your own adventure. Music is too, and I know you got different objectives with music, which I'm looking forward to getting into. I do think, they say a picture speaks 1,000 words. I
Yeah,
think a video can say more. Obviously, it's hard to make a good
yeah,
video that's not
oh yeah.
stereotypical and not corny, but I mean, it can be done,
Hmm.
right? But yeah. So we stayed in touch, and that goes a long way, you know what I mean? And then you reached out to me. It was an honor when you reached out to me, like, yo, I got this new EP with Annoyed. I want you to peep it. I'm like, for sure, man. I'm game, right?
Right.
And the EP was dope, and I said, you know what, man? Let's do this. Like, the things you talk about, the things you stand for, I do want to talk about them, and here we are, man. So
Yeah,
it's
man.
dope. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me, man, for sure.
Yeah, man. So just wanted to get into things a little bit here. Can I ask you what's your background? Are you like Italian or Arabic, or
Oh,
I'm just
so
curious? Like,
my mother's Italian. She's like, I say half Italian because it's easier. She grew up in an Italian household, so my father's Iranian, so
got
I'm
it.
half Iranian, Persian, and then the other. And I'm sure you have a lot of those in Toronto.
Oh yeah,
In,
yeah, yeah.
in Toronto, they call the capital of Iran. I'm sure it's Tehran. They call it Toronto. There's mad Persians out there. But yeah, and then my mother is Russian, Lithuanian, German, Austrian, like
Y-
a crazy amount of
Your
them.
mother's Russian, really?
Yeah, Russian, Lithuanian, Polish, German,
Wow.
Austrian, and like all these
Okay.
things, but
Yeah, yeah.
predominantly Italian. So,
Right, right, right.
a whole bunch of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, where I grew up, they actually call it Little Russia, right? So
Yeah.
Russia. I was born here, but my parents are from Russia.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
the high school I went to was largely Russians and Iranians,
Yeah, oh, yeah,
actually.
yeah.
So,
I'm
so there's
sure.
a connection there, man. And they're like adjacent, like, communities. Like, there's no segregation.
No,
They're
no,
just a lot living together, right?
yeah,
So there's a connection
yeah,
there. You know what I mean? So that's
sure,
cool.
absolutely. Um,
Have you always lived in Rockland County, your whole life, or?
no, I used to live in Alabama. I moved here from Alabama when I was 5 or 6, so I was over there.
Right.
I'm still born in New York, but when I moved from New York when I was like 1 or 2 maybe to Alabama, lived there for a few years and moved out back here. But Rockland County's it's got a bad rep. I like Rockland County. I used to hate it when I was younger, but now I like it as I get a little
Yeah.
more calm, relaxed, cool, collected. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
quiet over here. Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's good.
Gotcha. So, I like to get into what I like about the artist's music to show I'm a real fan. But before I do that, I wanted to talk about your voice for a second, because there's a story
Yeah,
behind that, right?
yeah,
Um, when you sent me that EP with Annoyed, it's called My
yeah,
Goodness, right? I got that right?
yeah.
I was like, yo, is something off with your vocals or the engineering or something like that? Do you want to let us know a little bit about that? Maybe it'd be cool for your fans to know, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, so when I was younger, like you can even hear it on the older projects. Remember when you told me you were listening to While You Slept, and I told
Yeah,
you it was a compilation from like 2010 to like 2016 or 2017, something like that. My voice
yeah,
was a lot. more clear, you know.
Right.
But I remember there was like, I also used to smoke cigarettes. So I think that kind of messed with my voice a little bit. I stopped a few years ago.
Right.
Then I got into the vape and stuff. And then, you know, I try to stop that, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
And then, you know, after that, it kind of altered my voice. So I remember I even got reviewed by somebody. They were like, yo, the mix is like, I'm like, that's my voice. And people didn't really believe it. But now you can see, like, that's actually, you know, it's my voice. But yeah, that's kind of just what happened. Out of nowhere, I was like, you know what? There's going to be people who really don't like it, and that's okay. But I feel like in terms of authenticity, I'm not going to really try to change it.
Yeah.
And because I haven't tried to change it, and I just kind of kept doing what I do, I've gained a lot more traction in terms of, you know, cultivating a fan base and getting eyes on me and things like that.
Yeah.
So it helped a lot. You know, the distinction in my voice is what helps me stand out on tracks, at least nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, and ever since you told me that, like, I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
So I thought it was an interesting point of discussion. So I want to get right into what I like about your music, if that's cool.
Of course.
I feel like you're really rapping with true intentions. You know what I mean? Largely, you want to help people, and it comes across in your music and the energy in your music. You know?
Yeah.
You got hella flows. You rap double time, all that.
Yeah.
But it's all driven with the message, and to keep going, you got projects, and all of them are balanced with like really personal songs, and then you got your anthems about success, things that are like, you could call them club joints or whatever, shit that would seem to do good with algorithms today. I'm not an expert, you know what I'm saying, but yeah. I wanted to ask you, like, you got really strong Spotify streams.
Right.
We kind of talked about the fact you don't do video. Can you give us any insight into like how you're able to achieve that on Spotify, whatever you're willing to divulge?
So one of my best friends, his name's Parker, and you know, he's somebody that was really always extremely supportive of my music. You know what I mean? He was always there. He always was like, keep going, bro, don't stop. And one day, this was like in 20, I want to say 2020. And he found this playlist, and it had and you know, Playboy Cardi has like a massive fan base.
Right.
And Parker was like, bro, there's a Playboy Cardi leak on this fan base. You know what I mean? Like, you got Playboy Cardi's fan base looking for this whole leak. This playlist was on Complex, whatever. Why don't you reach out to the guy who curated the playlist and try to get on there? And then I reached out to the kid. It was like a college kid, and his name's Cam too. And great dude. He helped me out a lot. And he was like, yeah, bro, I'll put you at the number 2 spot. Just give me like $50 for the week.
Right.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I gave him $50 for the week, and I got like 30,000 streams that week. And then we kept it on there more. And then it eventually got to like 300,000 streams in like a month and a half, 2 months. And, you know, mad people were hitting me up on my DMs, and they stayed in touch. And after that, I just kind of kept consistently dropping. And because I had those people, the way that I kind of took advantage of that was like, all right, I'm going to keep dropping shit, because these listeners who are here now, when I drop a single or something like that, it's going to be on all their release radars. So when everything dropped, I would always just catch those fans on release radar, generate saves. Like, I have a picture of it, and I'm going to post it at the end of the year. I think this year alone, on like songs, we got like 250,000 saves. You know, like, that's pretty crazy.
Saves?
So, saves. Like, not streams. We have like 1.7 million in the last year, you know?
Right.
So that's a good ratio. So I'm definitely really content with it.
That's dope.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
Yeah, man. So just to continue a couple more points about your music.
Sure.
You know, you've got a modern sound. I know you started like in the boom bap kind of sample thing.
Right.
But at this point, you got a modern sound. But again, you have a message. But your delivery, it's like you're delivering it's like a sugar-coated pill, man. Your delivery is like the sugar, but the pill has the goods behind it. You know what I'm saying? In the message.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have any comments you want to throw in, I'm just going to keep going. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, you know what it is? It's kind of like you have to, you know, if you like, if you go to a business meeting and you're trying to pitch a product, you got to pitch it properly. No one's going to walk in, and this is pretty rare. I don't care about how many people are like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm this, that. You got to be presentable. So like me, for example, if I try to make my music, like, of course, my intention behind it is always going to be my message and my message alone. Like I said, I always am a really big fan of authenticity. Like, for example, the reason why I'm such a big fan of Pro is because his shit is authentic. Being in the studio with him, he's a really good dude, so I can feel his authenticity behind the microphone. I know him like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, with like being with the certain deliveries and the sugar coat or whatever to appeal to a lot of people to get your message across, you got to be presentable. Like you got to walk through a business meeting suit and tie. You're not going to walk in with a t-shirt and one shorts. You know what I mean? So it's kind of being presentable and appealing to the people. And sure, there's going to be people who just want to be there for the melody and the cadences, and that's great. But also the great thing about it is like there's fans who are like, bro, like I just listened back to your shit like 5 or 6 times and dug into the meaning, and it really resonated with me. So
that's the category I fall into, man. And now I've listened to your shit like plenty of times. And I don't feel like I'm losing any brain cells, man, because you're always grounded about something in reality, man. You know what I'm saying? So, man.
Yeah, I mean, my message behind my music is it's pretty simple. I think that there's a lot of traumas that people endure, but I always think trauma is always an opportunity to triumph. And there's no better triumph than creativity. What you give to the world and what you take from the world. You know, and that's creation. What you take from the world and give back is creation. So you can either have good creation or bad creation. So I always just try to keep that intention there. I don't want any malice behind what I do and of course I got tracks that are ignorant as hell.
Sure.
But that's okay because when people ask me about that, they'll say like, oh, well, you talk about this, you talk about this, and then you talk about mental health. I'm like, bro, I'm allowed to be human. I'm allowed to have moods when I write a song.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people don't get. Like I don't write my songs days before I go. I write my songs at 30 minutes to an hour before I go into the studio. Because what I feel in that moment is how I want the people to feel as well. You know what I mean?
In terms of your speed of writing, well, you know, let's get into your transformation in music, because your transformation in music and life seem to follow the same course. Yeah. But you could correct me if I'm wrong. You know, I know you used to go by Calamity, right?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Now you go.
I feel like you're like Northwell. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm a little cooler, but let's see, man. So now you go by Kamron. That's your name, right? It seems like listening to your music, talking to you, listening to your lyrics, it seemed like you've actually kind of figured yourself out on this journey. Is that a fair statement?
I think I mean, granted, I'm 30. I still think 30 is young, even though a lot of people will look at it differently. But I'm pretty proud of where I'm at for a 30-year-old. And I think the reason why I'm there is because I faced a lot of obstacles. I've seen a lot of things, especially growing up. You know, I have a severely autistic brother. There's a lot of circumstances that surround you that need to make you grow up really quick. So instead of harping with sadness and feeling negative about the whole situation, I kind of turn it into power and turn it into the realization that God put me through these things to help other people. Because, you know, there's a saying that I thought of, and it's actually in a song that's like coming up, and it's like, you go through what you went through to help others get through what you went through. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the message I always try to convey. So yeah, I'm definitely comfortable with myself. I want to be as authentic as possible. And I wouldn't even say, it's not a journey towards success. It's a journey towards completion before my days here are over. Right. And I don't think we're always going to be complete until that day comes, unfortunately, because we're always growing, learning something new every day. Yeah. But I try to be aware of that and accept that. And every day is an opportunity for new blessings. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Give me a second here. Just lost where I am here. 1 second here.
Take your time. I'm chilling. You got time.
Yeah. So with that said, did you ever take a break from rap music?
Yeah, I did.
To figure yourself out, or has it been a continuous?
So I went to you know, I went to college and everything. Well, okay, so I went to college and like 2013, I transferred from my community college to a place called Binghamton University, which is, like upstate New York. And
Right.
I was there for a couple of years, and I was dating somebody at the time. And like at that point, I'm like, there's no studios in Binghamton, So I went to
Right.
school, I studied, I kind of left music on the wayside for about 2.5 years. But then there was one year I was just like, you know what, let me get back into it. I went through like a breakup. I was like, I feel bored. I was like, and that breakup was one of the best things that ever happened to me because it got me really invested back into music. And it was constant. I was constantly putting out projects. Like even while that Why You Slept thing happened, like there was songs from like 5 different projects in the span of like 2 or 3 years. I did like 5 projects. And then you just really start to you really start to learn the cadence of your growth and like understanding where you want to be. You can make club bangers all you want and you can do all that shit, and sometimes it is fun to do that because that's always going to be a part of who I was, and I'll always embrace it. But it really just boils down to like, just being able to follow the steps you set for yourself, and like even being able to look back at those steps to see to where you get
Right.
to, like to the ultimate goal. It was a really cool feeling. And yeah, so I stopped rapping for 2.5 years, but I was thankful for it because I learned a lot through those 2.5 years. It made my
Right.
writing better.
Absolutely. I guess, and when you take a break, you just gather shit to
Oh my
say, right?
God.
It
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
racks up. So wanna, I know you want to help people with your music. I wanted to use this interview as a way, maybe we could help a few people, help
Sure.
ourselves even. And I
Sure.
want to do that by opening with a quote so that you can tell us a bit about your life story if you're down with that.
Sure.
So on your project, They Fear Thy Fall, Thy Succeed 2019, one of my favorite projects of yours. You
Oh,
got a
thank
track called Gold,
you. My
and you're
favorite
like,
song. Yeah.
hopefully I don't butcher this. I've had that on loop quite a bit
Yeah.
last couple of days. So the whole back, I was once given some Prozac, cope with suicidal ideation. Now I own that. Struggles on hopeless, they're golden, but I done grown fast. No album was created by myself. Depression wrote that.
I got goosebumps the way you said it.
Yeah, man.
There's a Yeah.
It's a powerful song, bro. I mean, maybe when we get to suicidal ideation, maybe you could tell us your life story,
So
and
I was diagnosed with OCD, but the OCD that I was diagnosed with was called pure O, which means like instead of like checking stoves or shutting off lights continuously or doing any of those things, it was mental compulsion. So I would think of a scenario, like for example, it first started when I was 5. I saw Star Wars Episode 1, and when Liam Neeson's character got chopped in half and like fell down that pit, I I was very scared of death for some reason. So like when I was 5 years old, I walked out of the theater. I'm like, Mom, am I gonna die? Am I gonna die? And
right.
like when I was 5 years old, I would have my hand over my heart to make sure it was still beating,
Wow.
and I wasn't able to sleep, nothing like that. And
Right.
then I got over that. My OCD is always episodic as opposed to chronic.
Okay.
So they last about 6 months to a year. Then one of them would be food poisoning, where I wouldn't be able to go to a restaurant and eat food. I would have to make my own food. I wouldn't eat meat. I wouldn't eat none of that because I was scared I'd get food
Wow.
poisoning, get the stomach virus. Like there was a whole bunch. Car accidents, my mother's health. There was a bunch of them.
It, is that from what I understand, like some of the things that you're dealing with, it comes from stresses, right? Or like
It comes from
events or in life, like things like that early in life,
yeah.
or let me
It
know.
it comes from things that unfortunately, it comes from things mostly, at least what I've learned, that I don't really have control of. I
Yeah.
don't really have control if I go out to a restaurant and eat something and get a stomach. If it happens, it happens. It is what it is.
Right.
God forbid something happens to one of my family members. Of course, it's devastating, but like the way that you get through it is you have to accept it and say, listen, there's a possibility with everything. And
Yeah.
acceptance is the key to getting through a lot of things. But sitting with acceptance and trying to harbor acceptance and understand what it really is a difficult thing to do, because worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere. You know what I mean?
It's funny, when I was younger, maybe 12, 13, I got into some weird pattern where I had to do some fucking patterns before I went to bed, or
Right.
something bad was going to happen. It became pretty bad over a period of like maybe less than a year, but at some point I was like, yo, if I'm going to get stuck in this shit, I may as well not live through this. So I'm just gonna stop doing this, and whatever bad happens, let it fucking happen, right?
That's what it is.
That's what I got to, and somehow I broke out of it, thankfully. But like my buddy's dad has a really bad case of OCD,
Yeah.
like crippling. So, anyways, I just wanted to kind of relate
Yeah.
to,
Sure.
to what you're saying. But yeah.
Yeah.
So with that said, growing up, did you feel like you were the only person dealing with this shit? You know, whatever mental health or struggles you're dealing with, like, were you able to relate to people, or just kind of dealing with it in your own kind of in silence, so to speak?
I grew up in a culture where, like, you know, like my father's Middle Eastern, and a lot of my friends are Italian, and, you know, off the boat Italian, you know, so
Right.
like, or they're from families that are off the boat Italian. So
Right.
it wasn't really, you know, like, it wasn't really talked about. I think the one thing that kind of changed my mind about a lot of things was I openly embraced them. You know, I went to
Right.
therapy early on. Like,
Right.
my mother's an angel, man. My mom caught all the signs, and she knew exactly what to do when I was a child.
That's
And
amazing.
so because she caught all that, she was able to get me the proper treatment. You know, and I have a therapist that I see still to this day. His name's Dr. Farr. I've been going to him since I was 8 years old. And I still
Wow.
see him to this day. So I've been seeing him for 22 years. And, you know, like, he's somebody that really got me through everything.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, it's something that I think everybody goes through. I think a lot of people have mental health issues, and I just think people are afraid to talk about them because weakness is something that will break a lot of people down. But weakness
Right.
can also be strength, you know, like, I built my strengths off of weakness.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
sometimes it's crazy, but I find sometimes you got to hit like rock bottom,
oh my,
unfortunately,
it's
to
in my
to
opinion, I think
really
it's
like,
necessary too.
right. So I wanted to move along. You know, I try and be efficient with my quotes these days. I'm gonna
Yeah,
quote something fairly long, but it's off the same track, Gold. It covers a lot of ground. It's gonna give us a lot to talk about if you're down with it.
yeah, definitely does.
So I will try not to butcher this because you spit fast. You know, I'm a slow spitter. So um, it felt like subtle suicide, a youth who felt so euthanized. I always slept because killing myself would make my mama cry. And I couldn't do that. I knew that. With a new life and a new craft and a new world and a new home, with an old friend and a new track, a new pad, a new breath, and a few books, some self-love, I cured that. Where the word at? Where the nerve at? I bust back. I learned that. I earned back. I'm worth that. Where the herd at? Buck it all now. Where the girls at? My betting was an investment. The lesson in stressing's a blessing. Succession from growth and depression, defeating my ego's deception. Pardon me, that was a long ass quote, but you spit that super fast. It basically walked us through your lows to being, you know, recovered, so to speak, for lack of a better
Right.
word. So I wanted to ask you a question. What friend did you keep around? How did you know what friend to keep around? If I can ask you that
Well,
question.
I guess there was a couple people that really got me through that time of my life. I mean, to be honest, I think the people that I talked to the most were, like, I had a friend in college named Etienne, and I had a friend in college named Santos. I'm still really close to Santos. Unfortunately, I haven't seen Etienne as much, but Santos is somebody who really got me through a lot of things and made me understand a lot of things, and introduced me to books. And actually,
Right,
my mom was the one that was like, "Yo, you should pick up a book and start reading." And
right,
the first book when I really started getting into reading was an Eckhart Tolle book, who's pretty much a generic guy who's somewhat of like he's all about mindfulness and spirituality, and,
I,
you know,
I,
kind
I,
of,
I read I read a bit of his popular book years. I didn't get through it, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Go
But
ahead.
it was
Go
called A
ahead.
New Earth, and I read A New Earth, and I just started realizing that a lot of the stuff this guy's saying is making sense. And then when I really got through all his books, I started going into other things. I got into, you know, like Robert Greene, like 48 Laws of Power, 33
Right.
Strategies of War, Art of Seduction, all these books.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I would get into other books about psychology, like Dr. Peter Giovanni, like Countertransference and Triumphs. And it's just like, it was something that, it's like, wow, I know all these things. And I felt maybe because I wasn't able to understand them or formulate them properly, I looked towards literature, and I looked towards, even books that were fiction, like The Alchemist, or,
Yeah.
anything by Paulo Coelho. I would read a lot because they had a lot of wisdom in there. And over time, I'm like, wow, all these things that I would think about that made me feel like I was having an existential crisis are being talked about in these books and
Yeah.
elaborated on.
Yeah.
So I would say Santos is the one friend who really introduced me to keeping it going, at least when it came to reading, and reading changed my life. I can't even sit here and lie about it. Reading completely changed my life.
That,
Um,
that's it's
yeah,
amazing that you say that, because I went through a phase in my 20s, self-improvement, a lot of reading.
yeah,
Some books impacting, but it doesn't always change people. But it seems like you took it all the way, so to speak,
yeah.
for lack of a better word. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I think there's a
But
lot of people. I think there, and I don't mean to cut you off. I just think that there's like, and this is something I want to get out there. I think there's too many people nowadays who are reading all these books and sharing all this information. You have such, everybody's got such a big platform now to talk about
yeah,
things, and a lot of the time it's like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like,
yeah,
when it comes to your business, listen, when it comes to your music and you're doing whatever you want to promote yourself, great. But when it comes to how you actually make money, keep that shit on the low. Don't let
right,
anybody know how you're completely making money,
right,
because if you fail and you're talking about all this money you get, then you look dumb.
yeah.
And then guess what? Your reputation is shattered, and nobody's gonna fuck with you anymore. No one's gonna fuck with you anymore just because you shattered your reputation.
It,
Like,
it's becoming clear to me as I get older. Like, it's the decisions you make to yourself in silence
oh
that are
yes,
the
yeah,
strongest. If you agree, let me know if you agree with that. You know
I
what I'm
agree with
saying?
that.
So yeah,
I have a line. I have a line in the note. I have a line in the new Pro Dillinger EP about that. You know what I mean?
right.
Like, the weakest speak the loudest. It's just how
Yeah,
it goes. The weakest always talk the loudest.
yeah. The older I get, the more I realize, there's a lot of things I don't know. The less words I speak, yeah, I try not to speak more than necessary, for lack of a better word. But
That's in
yeah,
40. That's in 48 Laws of Power. You ever read that book?
no, I'm aware of
So
it, but no, I haven't read it.
it's law. I think it's law 4, if I'm not mistaken. But it's
Right,
um, always say less than necessary, because the more you speak, the more foolish you might become, because you could say something dumb.
right.
And like, it just, I think what I've learned, at least, like, one thing rap has really taught me is that, you know, knowledge without application is nothing. You need knowledge with application is
P-
intelligence. You know what I mean?
People, and everyone has gone through this, are regurgitating things they learned 2 minutes
Yeah,
ago. They learned about 2 minutes
yeah,
ago
bro.
without
Yeah,
practicing it, right? So you got
yeah.
to be careful who you listen to
You got to learn
sometimes, right?
empirically. You got to learn through
Yeah.
experience. Empiricism is the best way to learn anything.
So wanted to ask you regarding friends, again, I don't care. Let's get into life. You know what I'm saying? You rap about real life. Let's talk about real life. Did you have to let go of a lot of some people to move forward?
To be real with you, the only people I've had to let go of are people like, exes or something like that. But other than that,
Got
like, not really. Luckily, I've been with the same circle since I was 5 years old. You know what I
Nice,
mean? I have the same friends since when I moved back here from
nice.
Alabama. Got all the same friends for 25 years or more. So I'm very blessed. I'm very fortunate.
That's dope, man. That's dope.
Yeah,
Not everyone has that big of a close circle, so that's
yeah,
dope.
I know. It's great, man. I'm very lucky.
So wanted to move along, get into another quote. Um, Melodies for the Melancholy. And the track is M4TM, one of my favorite tracks of yours.
Oh,
You're
thank you.
like pain, fibromyalgia, ADHD, some GAD mixed with OCD. Things I beg the Lord, please. The man that I'll be won't be much until my mind can break free.
Hmm.
Um, maybe we're reiterating what we've talked about, but I guess it's ongoing work for you, kind of.
Right.
Is that a fair statement?
I
To,
I
or have
think
you conquered any of these things entirely? Would you say?
no. I would say I would say that I haven't conquered everything entirely, but I've learned to facilitate my life accordingly throughout the day. Like, they don't bother me as much anymore. They're kind of like, it's like wearing an uncomfortable coat. You know what I mean? But if it's cold out, you got to wear the coat.
Yeah,
Like, so it's just, that's what it is. But sometimes anxiety is a really good thing. I started to learn that my anxiety propelled me into a lot of different avenues of success and different forms of thought, different forms of creation. So I started to really accept and embrace my anxiety for what it is, because if it wasn't for my anxiety, you know, they always say the idle time is the devil's time. With anxiety,
Right.
you're always trying to move and do things, and it's kind of a blessing in a way. And I know it sounds weird, but
Right.
once you really embrace it, embracing it is how you conquer it.
Right.
You know?
So moving along, you know, like I like to interview artists that are saying shit. You know, they could be having fun as well, but in a time where people, you know, some people don't take rap seriously. Maybe it's watered down. Maybe there's too many players in the game. I like to highlight that, you know, some people are still talking about rapping about real shit that
Right.
you can relate to. So I'll get into one more quote. This is also Melodies for the Melancholy, great album. And pardon me, I'm focusing on some of the heavier stuff. For me, that's a little more interesting to unpack. So the track is called Allure, and here's the quote. So baby boy, ignore them youths are pure. I might have got that wrong. You could correct me, but you're like, long as I'm alive, this love is yours. You're the source that cured. You're the love that pushed me forward. You're the force that forced me towards a life restored. Used to curse to God, used to mourn, used to claim you made my life a war, used to curse the day that you were born, but now I know that you were God's reward. You're rapping about your brother with autism. Like, that was a powerful ass track.
Yeah.
What did it take for you to write a song like this? Like, have you ever thought about writing it before? And you know,
I've written a bunch of songs about him. You know, I've only put out maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But that track was definitely, that was like one of the easiest tracks I had to write, because yeah, you know, there have been a lot of hardships with my brother and everything like that. But as I started to get older and get wiser, I realized he's got it better than everybody. He's got no bills to pay. He'll always be taken care of by the government. He's never got to worry about any of the stresses. This is all he cares about is chips and pizza. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And he's very, you know, he's blessed in that way. I consider that a blessing. And I consider kids with disabilities angels. I do, because they can't really do any wrong.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to get right into heaven. They don't know what sin is. They don't really have an ego. All they know is instinct, and everything they do is primal.
Yeah.
So
it's a pure existence.
Exactly.
I think that's the fair way of putting it. Right?
It's a pure existence, just like you said. So like, when it comes to situations like the one I endure with my brother and everything like that, and I said before in the interview that I had to grow up quickly during that, I used to be really upset and be like, oh, you know, I got to watch him. He's having a meltdown. He's attacking me. He's attacking my mom. He's doing this. He's pulling her hair out. Like, you know, there was a lot of things I had to bear witness to. But the great thing about it, and the reason why I love him so much, is because he taught me everything without saying one word.
Right.
You know what I mean? He didn't have to speak to me. I would just look at him and I would learn everything. I just had to be around him. I would learn how to be a man. I would learn how to I would learn how to be very responsible from a very young age. So, you know, God blessed me with the opportunity to look at things and be like, you know what? This next obstacle is not shit. Because I've been through so many things with it. Like, everything else is a fucking cakewalk. This is nothing to me. Yeah, and that's why I always say, like, I'm not gonna get out hustled, because nothing is really a challenge to me like that, because I faced challenges my whole life. So I'm incredibly thankful for him. You know what I mean? And he's a when you look at him, you see like the soul of an angel. You really do.
Yeah.
He taught me everything, man. I love him.
And it's his birthday today, you said, so happy birthday to him.
Thank you, man.
That's awesome. So, you know, and speaking of that, I watched some of your interviews.
Oh.
And I watched that 15-minute interview. I think it's a Rockland radio station, right?
Which was that the one with M-Easy?
I think so. And you said a couple things to him. I don't know if it was about autism or just some life shit, and he started crying, bro. Like, you said some words he needed to hear, man. And that was crazy. It just seems like you're ahead of the curve in terms of growing up, you know, maybe for your age. Is that a fair statement? And do you always have this impact on people that you know?
I mean, I always try to help people out, and I always try to let them look at the bigger picture. Sometimes I don't take it for myself though, which is something I definitely need to work on. But my friends, a lot of my friends do come to me for advice, and they come to me for me to console them in certain situations, and whether it's business, whether it's relationships,
Yeah.
anything like that. I appreciate you, One Lex only. I appreciate you. Um, but yeah, I mean, it comes down to a point where like I had a speech recently at a fundraising event. It was like a cannabis gala. And I don't write anything. So like when I went up on stage, I just spoke true shit, and people really
Right.
resonated with it because this is what I do. I am on this earth to heal. I know my purpose. I'm here to heal people, whether it's through music or through conversation or I never want to sound like I'm lecturing anybody. If they're going through things that I went through and I can resonate with them, then I'll give them my insight. But if it's something that I haven't been through, I just tell them I'm going to listen,
Yeah.
because sometimes listening is better than giving them a discussion or conversing or giving advice. Listening is the best thing you could do in some instances.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people that go through certain situations that I really haven't been through, I'm just gonna be like, yo, let me listen to you. You need to be heard out. And I'm letting you
Yeah.
know, me listening is one of the best forms of love I can give you at this point in time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you know, I think because of my circumstances growing up, I got very lucky. I have a very strong family. I've got a very strong nuclear family, and we're very hard workers, and we don't let shit stop us. So because of
That's
that, I
dope.
think I was instilled with taking care of people, and
Right.
it's a blessing too. That's it.
So I tend to talk about this topic because I think about it. I think as a lot of people do. What role does religion or God play in your recovery? So you read a ton of books.
Right.
You moved away as well. It
Right.
seems like part of your formula.
Right.
Um, yeah, because I think I've heard you rap like you don't believe and then you believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I guess at different points. So yeah, can you let us know?
So I wouldn't say I'm somebody. I'm starting to get really into religion now. I used to be completely atheist, but as I've gotten older and realized that all of us have the opportunity for free will, and that we have our own judgments and can make our own decisions, whether they're good or bad, or even the fact that there's all this science, everybody trying to debunk a god, or everybody trying to say that the universe is from the Big Bang. To me, it's just like, as I get older, like, how is the moon up? How is the moon moving 87,000, what is it, 24,000 miles an hour?
Right.
And we're going in a perfect circle around the sun. There's gravity that holds us in place. All these things around the world, everything in nature needs to work accordingly for us to survive.
Yeah.
How is there not an intelligent designer behind that? And you know, I got very into religion recently, particularly Christianity and everything like that. So yeah, I mean, I kind of submitted myself to God and Jesus, and like, of course, I make music and I have some explicit lyrics, but Jesus was a healer, and that's what I intend to be. You know what I mean? So
Was that the major turning point for you, or were you already kind of
um, I, I think
coming
I
around
think
the
the major
corner?
no no the major turning point for me in general was in 2021. I had a really bad um, OCD episode for about 6 months to a year. It was really bad, like fibromyalgia. When I woke up throughout the whole day, I'd have migraines. This was like for 6 months to a year. I'd have crazy back pain shooting down my whole body, everything like that. And then I was like, you know what? This is not, I didn't look at it as depression or OCD. I looked at it as something called Kundalini, and Kundalini is a spiritual awakening. So I felt as if I was breaking out of my old shell and forming into a new one. And growth is painful. Growth is not supposed to be like, wow, this is great. Growth is necessary when you're going through obstacles, because if you're not going through obstacles, you're never going to grow. How will you problem solve? Where's your abstract thought going to come from? Where's critical thinking going to come from? You need to
Right.
learn these things, and problems create that opportunity for you. And that's another reason why I believe in God now. Because like I said, he put me through these obstacles so I can learn from what I went through and help others get through what they're going through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I got to. I'm not going to say, and do have to change this, I don't go to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't do any of that, but eventually I am going to start getting to that point.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That that's dope, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so maybe we'll shift gears a touch. Um, you know, one thing you told me, and you're not the only artist, you said, I don't really listen to hip hop anymore.
Not at all.
Right? The Pro pretty much said the same thing to me. There's other artists that have said the same thing to me.
Me and Pro talked about it. Yeah, we don't listen. It's whack. We don't listen to, because rap nowadays is just so saturated with bullshit.
Yeah. So go ahead.
So like, I guess what I think of on this new generation of rap is that it's fueling it. I feel like rap nowadays is systemic in a way, and I mean that by like, it's oppressive in a way, because it tells all these kids growing up, I got these chains, I got these cars, I got whatever, I got all these assets that are solely materialistic, because the rich stay rich because they put their money in the right things. Meanwhile, the poor stay poor because they put their money in the wrong things. It's as simple as that.
Right.
Why is there, what the crazy thing to me is, like, there's kids who will go out and wait in Foot Locker, on a line of Foot Locker, for a new release of Jordans, and they'll do it 5-10 times a year.
Yeah.
Right. And so they'll spend pretty much anywhere from $3,500 to $5,000 buying those sneakers. When if you want to go buy a condo, that's a 3% down payment on a condo.
Yeah.
Like, to me, things just don't really, like, that's why I talk about, like, in my songs, like, landlord never had no questions, God will pave the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I caught those bars.
It's just like, you need to focus your energy on things that really matter, because you die twice. When you die, and the last time your name is ever said, you gotta keep a legacy going. No, you just gotta keep a legacy going.
Yeah.
The purpose of being, in my opinion, the purpose of being a man, the purpose of being a human being, the purpose of being human, period, is to create the opportunity for generational wealth, to make sure the legacy after you is taken care of, to make sure the people that come after you and your family are taken care of. If that's not something you can do, then I'm sorry, but you need to divert your attention from what they're trying to sell you, and you need to put your attention towards what you can do, especially generationally.
Absolutely. And it's interesting for me, like, I've been listening to hip hop since I was a little kid. I'm 42, you know what I'm saying? I'm a grown man. But I didn't grow up in the biggest hip hop like environment. There weren't people doing ciphers on the corner, you know, when I was growing up. But I only ever really listened to hip hop for whatever reason. I got into it early, you know, whatever. I won't get into it. But it's interesting. I'm running this platform, and like, I don't want to have the same type of artists on, because all I do is listen to their music. So I need varieties. This is why I'm bringing you into the show, in part, because I need that variety of message going through my brain. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, but so yeah. Moving along here. Was there ever a point in your life when you're like, all I want to be is a rapper? Did you go through one of those phases?
Hell yeah! Like, there was. But luckily I kind of got past that point when I was pretty young. Like, when I was maybe like, when I started rapping at 13, actually I think my boy is in this. He just popped in. His name's Andrew Diaz, but his stage name is Andy with 2 A's. He was on my first song ever. It was called Confrontation. And I bought that session with like a dime bag of weed. But it was like, I don't know, man. It got to a point where, like, I did all this rapping, and I was like, I want all the accolades. I want all this. I want to be known as the best ever. I want to be known as this. I want to be known as that. And then as my circle started to really develop, and like I said, I kept the same people around me since I was young. Like, some I met later than others, but the people that are my friends usually stayed in my life, especially if I was close with them.
Right.
So, like, for me, it just came down to a point where I just wanted to be like a rapper with intention. I used to want to have that best rapper attitude, but like, fuck it. If I affect 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, as long as I get the message across and really help somebody get through a bad day, that's what it's all about.
It's a more sustainable place to make music
100%.
You know what? So let's talk about some success stuff. So you know, in your lyrics and for what you've told me, you have a successful business. You said you're okay to talk about it.
Yeah,
Let me know. You have a granite business.
Yep.
You have other sources of revenue. You own multiple properties. Like, I'm just curious, along this journey, sometimes when people are at a low, they're not thinking about this kind of stuff, bro. They're just thinking about how to get through to the next day and see something positive in life. Like, how did this business part fall into your life? Is it something you learned at the kitchen table? Did you learn it from other
My
sources? If you don't
dad,
mind me asking.
my dad owns a granite company, and we work together. You know what I mean? Which is really dope. And we
Right.
both, and it's granite's great money. It's a trade. It's never gonna go out.
Oh,
The amount of money you can make from it. Um,
right.
so like, what it really just boils down to is my father is still to this day a tough ass, like old school, no bullshit kind of guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So with that, like growing up, I'd be like, Dad, you're a dickhead, all this type of shit, like a grumpy ass little kid.
Right.
But as I
Right.
got older, he really instilled so many different values in me, and like it was that kind of love where it's like you got to be cruel to be kind. And
Right.
he was very hard on me growing up. It wasn't easy growing up with a father who was like, nah, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. Everything you got to do has got to be good. You got to
Yeah.
make sure you're a man of your craft no matter what. And he didn't really, he kind of Mr. Miyagi me. He led me by example.
Right.
When I started working with him when I was like 12. So when I used to like go on job sites, he was like, nah, you're not touching shit. You watch everything.
Right.
All you're going to do is
Right.
watch.
Right.
And he taught me that, and it's funny because I read this in a book after I learned this, but he said, you got to work to learn. You don't got to work to earn. Right now, just work to learn. That's it.
Right.
And once
Right.
you learn, when you really learn, that's what generates the income. That's what generates the revenue. When you
Right.
learn something, you're confident in your product and you're confident in your ability, you're confident in your service, the money's
Yeah.
just going to come right to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're good at making money, don't worry about losing money.
It
Type thing.
it it sounds like he wouldn't accept you sitting in your own depression as an
Hell no.
acceptable,
When I,
like reality.
When I
So
was
it's probably
depressed,
positive.
my dad would be like, snap the fuck out of it and get to work.
Yeah.
And like it would be that type of shit where it's like, damn, bro, you're not being sensitive to me as your child and all this
Yeah.
type of
Yeah.
shit. But he's
Yeah.
right. Depression gets worse when you sit around and when you thumb up your ass and you're
Do
just sitting
nothing.
there twiddling your thumb. It gets worse. You got to keep it moving. That's why they
Yeah.
say, like I said before, that's why they say the devil's time idle time is the devil's time. That's why they say that,
Right.
because
Abs- abs-
it's spiritual suicide sitting there and doing nothing.
Absolutely. So moving along, wanted to talk about some of your recent projects. So you
Good.
had your EP with Annoyed. I don't pretend I know about everyone and
Right.
everything. I just go in when I find something I like and I go in. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But Annoyed is fucking slick, man, with
Yeah,
the
he's a slick
bars.
talker. Yeah.
He's from
Yeah.
Connecticut. Fire. It's kind of a clash of styles, which seems like a theme. How did that come together? That's a fire project, man.
So,
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you select the production on
oh
that
yeah.
more? I feel like that's more up your alley.
Yeah. I
So yeah,
selected all the
so,
beats. I picked all the production. I wrote all the songs. But
right,
I just got his verses. So, I mean, the way that it came about with Annoyed was I heard one of his verses on a song. I think it was with Chris Webby and like Apathy and like Nems, and it was called Apex. And I was like, he got the standout verse. So like ever since then, I wouldn't say I was like a hardcore fan, but I was like, this is somebody I would like to do some shit with. So I hit
right,
him up. I got a feature from him, "Cry Now, Cry Later," there was an OG version. There's a different one on the EP, but
right,
or the EP. But so when we did that, it got really good reception. It got like 300,000 streams. Um, Everybody loved both verses. Everybody loved the song in general. So I hit him up like, bro, why don't we do a project together? I have no solo albums coming out. I'm trying to like step out from that for a little bit until I start working with other people so I can grow creatively. And
right,
that's what I did with him. So unfortunately with the Annoyed project is because he lives in Connecticut, we couldn't record it together. So he would have to send me his verses and all that back and forth. So it made it, I'm not going to say it made it, lack cohesion, but in my mind it did. And it had nothing to do with the tracks itself, but like the difference I see now, at least in terms of like the EP with Pro, the EP with Pro, bro, it was like we pretty much are finished. We have one more track left. We finished it in like a month, and we've only been in the studio together like 3 different times or 4 different times. So
Do you prefer being in the studio? It seems like less common these days, being in the studio with someone. You prefer that?
oh my, well, you know what it is, man? And this is something I really learned from Pro and my engineer, Cy Ray. And my engineer's a sad, he's a beast. My engineer is the dude who produced Window Shopper by 50. He made the beat
Okay.
for that. Yeah,
Okay.
so he's a heavy hitter. He plays no games, and he's very upfront with you. He's, me and him see the potential in one another. So like, he wants to see me grow as an artist, and Pros is the same thing. He's like, bro, like we want to see you grow. Like, and Pros, I'm still growing because he's nasty. He gets better with every song, and I think he's amazing. So I can't even imagine where it'll be, a year from now. But
Yeah.
they both are like mentors to me in a way, and we all share really good energy. We have a good bond. We're like family. You know what I mean? Because when you go to the studio and you're sharing this, when you're sharing this like experience with one another, and because I always think when you're in the studio, you're sharing the most intimate part of yourself with the other people around you.
Yeah.
Like that's the most vulnerable you could be potentially. Like you're showing your creation, what you write when you're alone. Like alone time is the most intimate time you have with yourself.
It's. Oh, sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. It's key to have an engineer that gives a fuck.
Yes.
Some of your biggest growth as an artist would be around an engineer that gives a fuck about what you're doing, right?
Even if you listen to like all the projects before the Annoyed project, like if you listen to the Annoyed project, like if you see how much I improved, like in terms of those like 3 or 4 months, just because I was with an engineer who was like, nah, you need to do this. Or like, nah, you need to do this. No, fix this up, do this, like make sure this is right. Because of Cy Ray, like I think I've don't get it twisted. I'm in the studio like pretty much, or at least at one point with that project with Annoyed, I was in the studio 5 times a week for 2 to 3 hours each time. So like I think I advanced in terms of ability. Being there 2 months, I advanced 2 years because I was there every day for 2 months.
I definitely think I noticed a jump in some of the cleverness of your lines. You could rap on all your other projects. You could rap your ass off. But I did notice a jump. Yeah.
The writing game went up. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you know what? It seemed like the promo didn't last very long on that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, I feel like you went right into you're going right into the Pro Dillinger. I was like, could have dragged this out a bit longer.
Well, so like one thing I learned from the project with Annoyed is like Annoyed's a great dude too. Like we met, we got content together. You know what I mean? But he didn't really promote it like that, which is fine. And that's okay. But I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna give energy where energy isn't met, and it's not a beef thing.
Absolutely,
like,
absolutely.
He's got his own thing going on. I understand that, and it was just like, let me divert my attention away from this. Like the numbers are doing well on it. It's doing well.
Yeah.
People are hitting me up about it. I gained a lot of fans from that project, and now the one with Pro Dillinger, I recognize the difference that when you do a collab project with somebody, and this is what I mean by making mistakes. And making mistakes is completely necessary. It wasn't a mistake working with Annoyed. I loved working with Annoyed. He's a great dude, awesome guy, mad cool.
Yeah.
But what it comes down to is it's like when you're in the studio creating with the person you're working with, it's that much more rewarding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes the dynamic of the studio sessions more important for one another. It's like, bro, I don't want to let you down and you don't want to let me down. Let's make the best shit we can make.
So, sorry, moving along to the project with Pro, it's dropping September 22nd, was it?
No, it's dropping Friday the 13th of October.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Is the theme related to Friday the 13th? Or?
I mean, to be honest, like the reason why I wanted to choose Friday the 13th is because there are some beats that are like they remind me of horror movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was and I love horror movies. I love movies in general, but horror movies are like probably my favorite genre.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Horror movies for me are like, forget it. Like I'm a massive movie fan, but horror movies are like that, or it for me, especially like slashers. But yeah, I mean, the reason why I wanted to do Friday the 13th is because I was like, nobody wants to drop on Friday the 13th, but some
Right.
people probably will.
Yeah.
But I wanted to drop on Friday the 13th because you can use it to your advantage, make bad luck into good luck. You know what I mean?
When you reached out to Pro, like to me, that's a sound clash, and I was privy to you sending me a couple of tracks.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
always huge respect. There's a lot of artists are starting to send me their stuff, which is really
yeah,
an
dude.
honor. You know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah.
And I'm
Pretty
like,
proud of you.
this is fucking ill. Like, you know, like I didn't know what to expect. But was he instantly on board, or did you guys have to talk it out? Like, how is this gonna work sonically, or
Well,
you guys just didn't think much about it? You just
we
dived.
so when me and Pro met I remember I had my release party for Annoyed, and he pulled up. Or no, I met him before that. He came to the studio that I go to, and like he knows Cyree also. They know each other their whole lives. So like when we linked, it was kind of just like, damn, like the vibe of this, it just feels right. You know what I mean? Like this vibe feels like this is all we need. Like, and so when you're, like I said, when you're with somebody and the dynamic is there, the vibe is there, and like it feels like we've only known each other like on a personal level for a few months, but like I said, it feels like a bond, like a brotherhood in a way, because
Right.
we're there creating as much as we can. And
Yeah.
like I said, we respect each other so much in terms of what we do. Like me and Pro talk about business, and we talk about rap, and we talk
Yeah.
about being rappers, and we talk about my business, and we just get each other on different levels.
Yeah.
Like he respects what I do, I respect the hell out of what
That's
he
dope.
does. But when that respect is mutual, you don't want to let each other down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's where we got to. So like
That's dope.
we just so like with me, Pro was like, I want to work with you because you got all the streaming, and Pro was like, if you work with me, it's a good idea because Pro's got one of the most insane fan bases you'll ever come in contact with.
Oh,
You know?
I have experienced like that interview I did with him. He collabed with me on clips,
Mhm.
and those likes were fucking flying,
Dude,
bro, on those clips, bro.
he's got such a good, dedicated fan base. Like his fan base bananas, bro. Like
Yeah.
literally, and he has such a good core following. So that's why we're trying to do like it's like cross marketing in a way, and that's
Yeah.
the advantage to this project. I get a lot of streams. I got a lot of monthly listeners. So it's definitely a good idea. Like
Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to it.
I think it gives, I don't want to speak for anyone, but it gives Pro an excuse to jump on some different kind of production. You know
Oh,
what I'm
bro,
saying? So
it's great to
that's
hear it.
interesting, right? Right?
Like Pro
Yeah.
definitely challenged himself, whether I'm sure he realizes it, but whether he does or not, he
Yeah.
definitely challenged. He's got different flows on this. He's flowing
Yeah.
different. He's faster
Yeah.
flows. Um, when him and I did the hooks together, like that one that's like, boom, motherfucker, that's a head shot. And then like we're going back and forth.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely a challenge for both of us because he's an intimidating rapper to work with because his delivery is so powerful. Like he could
Yeah. Yeah.
say
Yeah.
whatever and he's
Yeah.
got it. So, but
Yeah.
it's definitely going to be a sick project. I can't wait for that to drop.
That's dope. I'm looking forward to that. So, wanted to ask you, kind of, I noticed Nipsey Hussle coming up a lot
Yeah.
in some of your intros or skits. I looked at your IG. You got like your inspirations, clips. A lot of Nipsey Hussle.
Yeah.
Thought I'd ask you, what does Nipsey mean to you, man?
So I mean, Nipsey more or less like it wasn't about the fact that like his music was dope, which it was, but like it was more about the fact that he carried himself like a community leader and actually genuinely cared about his community. And I think shit like that is dope. You know what I mean? He always tried to give opportunity, created jobs for people. I think things like that are really important. And a lot of hip hop artists don't really do that. Or if they do, you don't really hear about it. Instead of conveying the message of glamour, glitz, fashion, jewelry, all this bullshit,
Yeah.
why don't you actually, instead of like having music that's predicated on materialism, have music where the foundation is about helping your community and providing opportunities for others that look up to you. Because if
Right.
they look up to you and you're not giving back, what's the point of them looking up to you?
Right.
So he did that, and I think that's incredibly admirable for him to do, and I hope to do the same thing. That's what my
For
main
sure.
focus is.
For sure. So look, what I do often for a guest is I'll come up with some closing questions that are tailor made
Sure.
for them.
Sure.
So I got two closing questions for you, and then then it's good night. So, you're transparent with your struggles.
Right.
I wanted to ask you, if you didn't overcome them, do you think you'd be able to be honest about them in your music?
Definitely not. No way. No way. Because I mean, well, actually, hold on. Wait a second. Some of the songs that I like, Melodies for the Melancholy, I wrote completely depressed, and it was the
Right.
only way I could have written. So I think it's kind of like I said before. I think it has to do with a lot of empiricism. If I feel what I feel, I'm gonna write what I feel, just because it
Yeah.
makes more sense as an artist. It's better to depict. It's better to have that blank canvas, and whatever you feel, you just gotta paint. You gotta let
Yeah.
people see the picture. So I guess it's not. I don't really think about it. Like I don't really give a fuck what people think because they're
Good.
not doing
Good
what I'm
for
doing.
you.
Yeah, and they could try, but they're not gonna. They're not gonna. Some of them might be, and that's great. But I think vulnerability is the best way to grow because people can judge you for those emotions, but when you get judged and you feel like it can potentially be a struggle to get past those struggles are the best thing because they bring you to a place where a lot of people don't want to accept where they're at, where you get to actually understand the darkest part of self. And when you understand the darkest part of self, you're like, damn, I've been here. Here's a new realm of my identity that I'm discovering, and I could take that with me. And this is what I learned from it. You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
no,
it's like,
absolutely. I encounter people that have been through a lot, whether it's socially or just whatever, and when they embrace it, they have a strength to them. You know what I'm
oh, hell
saying? Like a character that you could see it's
yeah. Right.
strength. You know what I'm saying? So here's my last question.
Sure.
If somehow you ran into Calamity, which is
My old
your former
me.
name, what would you say to him?
Mm, I guess I would say to him, like, the funniest thing ever, and this is, I've had a lot of conversations with artists about this. Like, my first song, for example, of course, the flow was off. Of course, it was Thieves of the Night, instrumental by Black Star. Thieves in the Night. Uh,
Oh,
I got to a point where, like, the music I'm making now, lyrically and thematically, is the exact same shit that I'm making now. And it's funny how you go through all these different avenues. I would tell my old self, be like, yeah, go do this, go do that, get your versatility up, but you're gonna wind up right back here. You know what I mean?
I
You're gonna wind up right back to the first song you made, thematically and sonically, and you're just gonna wind up just like that again. And but you're gonna get closer to perfecting it. So like
yeah,
I wound up back to square one.
right.
And of course I've grown, but I went right back to square one. I'm so thankful for it.
I've observed that in my own journey writing. I
Yeah.
won't get too much into it, but it's funny how after all these years you could come back around
Yeah,
to
exactly.
that energy. You know what I'm saying?
It's the
So
coolest shit.
so look, man, it's been super dope chopping
Hell
up.
yeah.
Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you,
Thanks
man.
for saving your life story. I'm definitely going to put out some clips,
For
get some
sure.
people to catch it. Hopefully we can help a few people, and hopefully we can get you a few extra
Yeah,
fans.
man.
And
Yeah.
any parting words?
Everybody that's been here for the interview, I really appreciate them. I also want to tell you, I want to give you your flowers while you're here. I think what you're doing is really awesome. I think you're somebody who works hard, who's somebody who's really passionate about it, somebody who does their due diligence. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people where I've had interviews and it's on IG Live, or even the ones that I go to where they're bigger ones. They don't nearly get as in depth as you do. So I
Thank
think,
you.
sometimes you should take a look in the mirror and recognize that and be proud of yourself. Tell yourself you're proud of yourself. Or you're only going to get bigger from here, man. I'm telling you. I promise you that.
Appreciate that,
Yeah,
bro.
man.
So we'll stay in touch.
Of
Looking
course.
forward to the new drops,
Thank you.
and thank you for everyone that tapped in. Have a great night, everyone.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon. Be
Take
well,
care.
bro.
Peace.
Peace.